All right, awesome. We're still rolling. I thank you for watching, and I'm excited to keep going because, as you can see, it's going to be a snowball effect. The most important thing for me has always been that individuals needed to learn how to take control of their own body. If you don't know how to take control of your own body, then you're always going to depend on somebody to take care of you. The goal here is not to depend on anybody because that's what the government wants. The government wants you to not know how to take care of your body, so that if you don't know how to take care of your body, you have to depend on the medical system of the government. And this is where they make the big bucks, right? This is why I'm not working against the medical industry. I'm simply trying to make their job easier. I want to give them less work to do. You know what I'm saying? The doctors seem a little too busy. Maybe they don't respond to the emails the way they should, and that's okay. And that's actually partly your fault at home for not properly educating yourself on how the body works. They have one job, to fix you. You have one job, to educate yourself. And if you could realize the relationship between you and the medical system, you should probably take ownership of how the body works and start trying to rebuild yourself the right way. And this is why this information is so important. Because the more that you learn how everything happens, meaning how your free radicals and your gut health build a good foundation for you to finally start moving your body around, because your heart rate will shift the moment you start moving. So if you don't understand what's going to happen when you start moving, why should you start moving? Once again, this is about hormones, not cash. And so what I want you to realize is that when you start trying to go ahead and rebuild yourself, your body's going to create certain hormones. The hormone that we want to minimize or just kind of be mindful of is called cortisol. If cortisol is present in the body, there is no fat burning in the body. The ideal thing would be that we could burn the fat between the organs, visceral fat, and we want to go ahead and move on to the next concept, which is to develop the muscle tissue to be able to learn how to withdraw sugars in order to perform a workout, right? To stimulate production or efficiency or output. And then we also want to teach the fibers how to rebuild themselves. So let's talk about the body at the next level, the muscular tissue, right? Because cortisol is going to affect our muscle in one of two ways based upon your training. Either it's going to help it grow or it's going to break it down. Anabolic, catabolic, right? So I'm going to put it here at the top, anabolic, catabolic. You're either creating muscle or taking away muscle. Now, when people look at me, they think that, okay, that guy must work out all the time. No, I've worked out for a long time, and I am true to my workouts, and I train in a way where I create dense muscle, but my human ability is also reflective of my muscle density because I focus on these two types of fibers. There's either type 1 fibers or type 2. Type 1 fibers are kind of like the abilities that you currently possess to either jog, to do yoga, or just to do movements. Type 2 fibers, fast twitch fibers versus conditioning fibers, these are going to be the ones that are kind of pushing you towards new abilities with your human body. This is all about upgrading the human software as we create Tesla towers. You know where I'm going with it. The idea here is that you have to put the body into a quote-unquote a shock that will allow the body to reach new strength in new ranges of motion, or we are going to introduce what's called progressive overload principles so that we can challenge certain areas of your body to excessive overload or decreased overloads. And then we're going to use what's called reps and sets, because that's what's going to give us the opportunity to be able to stimulate through a program your sugar utilization and muscular output. Now, there's a lot of things going on here, and yes, we should always keep in mind that recovery, meaning rest periods between sets, what this really means is, let's say that I do some jumping jacks, right? My body was sending sugar all over the place. All of my body's muscles were using up sugar to go ahead and pump out that output. What happens is you ever get to the point where like, man, my muscles are shot. I don't think I can do it anymore. Well, that's when your body ran out of sugars, right? So where's the body going to find these sugars? The idea is that a male body usually holds about 1,000 to 1,200. Let me put it like this. Calories of sugar. So that's right. Every single time your body can store in, just retain 1,000 calories of sugar. So when an individual is resting, but you've already drained all of these 1,000 calories that you had available at your disposal on the muscle tissue, your body has to then reach. It has to reach for sugar into the liver. And the liver is the one that's going to provide the body with extra sugars by breaking down stored fat. This is important. Now, there's another aspect of things. Anabolic, catabolic. If you do excessive workouts, right, which means that you put your body through strain and you don't recover correctly, meaning you don't sleep or you don't eat correctly or you don't have the right minerals or you don't have the right electricity in your body, then you're putting your body in catabolic state. Anabolic state means in a state of growth, right? Catastrophe, catabolic, anabolic. Anna is the name of my wife's mom, so Anna's the best. We want to be anabolic. All right, you never want your body to start breaking down. And one of the bodybuilders' biggest fear, which don't get me wrong, I'm not laughing at anybody, but it's just not a thought of mine or a concern, is, oh, I missed the meal. I'm about to go catabolic. My muscles are deflating. No, that never happens to me. That never, because you got to realize that muscle density comes from the patterns of movement that you put your body through, not necessarily the food. However, there is a beautiful relationship in recovery and nutrition, and I'll explain it in just a second. But the idea here is this, guys, that when you have type 2 fibers, these are going to cause the body to grow. These grow. You got to become aware of how the food that you eat and the movements that you do create certain reactions. And that's using your energy with awareness. Either you follow type 2 training methods of stimulation where you stimulate type 2 fibers and that will cause your muscles to grow, or you've trained in type 1 muscle fibers which will improve your aerobic capacity, which is basically what most individuals mean when they say, I want to be fitter. What they really mean is, I want to do things without getting tired as often. I want to do more without feeling exhausted. Well, that's aerobic capacity. But when they tell me, I want to achieve a pull-up, I want to be stronger, that's, you got to grow your muscle tissue, right? So this is anaerobic performance. This is aerobic performance. And so we need to learn how to separate the two, because training the two creates good stability for the individual. And that's where someone like myself will come in and create a structured program to help somebody micromanage these little many things that we have to cover, right? Because there's a lot of things, but the most important thing is free radicals, gut health. That builds the foundation. Before you start moving the body, stimulating the heart, challenging either type 1 or type 2 type of fibers. Let's say that you've never worked out before. Go for a walk. Let's say you've never worked out before and you want to challenge yourself. First, do squats. If that's too easy, do jump rope. If that's too easy, do squat jumps. But what we're doing is that you're giving your body a 1, 2, 3, a progressive system of challenging itself, because it's not just about rushing it to say that you could do what these other people could do or to do what you saw on Instagram. No. Oh boy. No. We got to get away from that idea. It's not about Instagram. It's about you learning how to feel what your human body can do by applying the basic concepts of free radicals and gut health to build an electric body that is hormonally stable. Because forget about cash for a second. It's about hormones. All right. So when we go to hormones, we want to learn to leverage cortisol. Cortisol, it's either going to be helping you or working against you. And we'll talk more about this down the road. But to give you an idea, when your body goes into this state over here on this side, when it goes here, it will increase cortisol production because it feels that it's being threatened, under threat. And if it feels under threat, then it's going to go ahead and increase its stress. But why does it go ahead and increase the stress hormone? Well, really, when you're in this type of state, your body is actually increasing the cortisol to be able to provide lubrication, right, to the joints. This is going to make sure that our joints are protected at all times, because now that you're really going to go ahead and increase the cortisol, this is to prevent stress in the body, right? It's a signal mechanism. And so these hormones tell the body it's under threat, so they make the body react differently because the brain needs to shift. When the brain shifts, this means your brain is now going from what some would say beta. When you go ahead and turn up the heat and you go into HIT, you go from beta to alpha, because now your brain has to be reactive. We're going to go ahead and discuss the 4 brain states. There is B, A, T, D. And for those of you who know about it, we got G. So B, A, T, D, G. These are the brain states. These are stimulated through your ears and your eyes. The body, it's the arms, the feet, the core, the spine. The heart and breath are the foundation. Heart, breath, limbs, core, and spine. The brain and the ears and the eyes. All right? If you understand these, you understand how simple the body is. Because what has to happen is that when people are in this state, they're jogging, this is when your brain is kind of picking up information and it can be manipulated. So I like to run because running improves your memory. I'm running out of ink here. Run to increase storage. I need some new markers, guys. You're going to have to donate to me. So what's happening here is that if you're running, your brain shifts brain state to a point where it can store information either in short term or long term better, depending on what time you'd run. If you ran after acquiring information, it'll store it into long term. If you listen to information as you're running, it'll put it into short term. But you need to learn how the brain uses running as a mechanism to imprint information into the brain, because running is a tool that our ancestors used to remember things better. Because if you are running away from something, your memory has to increase, your recall has to increase, everything has to increase in the faculties of the mind, so that way you don't get lost when you're leaving your home. But nowadays, our memories are so far off, our GPS systems are so far off because of the Wi-Fi frequencies. But this is why I'm telling you that the workouts can ultimately change your entire mechanism, and you need to learn the levers of the body so that you can manipulate what's called AMPK or mTOR. These are methods of recovery or growth. Because at the end of the day, isn't that what we're here to do? Either we're recovering or we're growing. We're building or we're resting. And you need to look at these, because when you go from a beta state, which is jogging, to an alpha state, which is under threat, this is for performance. This is performance. We could say attack. We could say execution. You need to learn how to put yourself into alpha. This is why working out is the key. Because if you start your day with a little bit of list, and that list puts your body into a type 1 type of movements, where your brain is in beta and it's currently able to be manipulated or persuaded, right? You would want to put somebody like The Rock. As soon as you wake up, you want to wake up and put The Rock, so that you're walking up the stairs, you're just doing your thing, and you're listening to The Rock, and The Rock is talking about you, is talking to you, is talking shit about the world, and is pumping you up. That's the type of stuff you want to hear in the morning, because as soon as he finishes his speech, boom, that's the trigger to go into a high intensity workout. He finishes his speech, or she finishes her speech, go into alpha, meaning you start a high intensity workout where you pull the body out of a state where it has oxygen. Most of you guys are getting too comfortable by not putting your body in a state of withdrawal from oxygen. So what happens is when you let the body have oxygen 24/7, it becomes comfortable. What we have to do is we have to make the body uncomfortable so that it can go into fight or flight in the early morning, so that the rest of the day it feels like it overcame that initial threat, making you feel accomplished from the gate. And this is why working out is so powerful, because you are tricking your body's hormones into depleting the sugars in your body by working out, so that when you start eating foods throughout the day, you're eating from a empty slate, as opposed to eating with already all of the muscles in your body filled up with sugars, and now you're eating more stuff, and now it's going to be like, well, the muscles are full, so where do I go? It's going to go out here and out here and out here. And it goes to your stomach because your muscles are full, because you never did any HIIT, because you never put the body in states when there was no oxygen. And because you never removed oxygen from the body, it never had to switch metabolisms. It never raised the heart rate to be able to go ahead and use those. So what's happening here is you're tricking your body into storing energy, but not training the heart. So if you're storing energy for whenever, but your heart is not being trained, what you're essentially doing is you're creating disease. By not training both states of the heart, meaning the conditioning, pumping out consistent blood flow for long periods of time, but also aggravating the heart rate, right, to a point where you remove oxygen. This is called a process of EPOC. This process of EPOC is the key. Do your own research on EPOC. But I want to get to this again, because if you understand how LIS goes directly to beta and HIIT goes directly to alpha, well, that leaves us with one thing, which is, how do we recover? How do we recover better? And that's delta. You need to learn to switch your brain state from beta, alpha, into theta. Theta is the answer for recovery. In order to make theta easier for the body, you need to look into CBD oils, sirtuins. You need to look into brown fat and telomeres. Telomeres are going to be what keep your DNA healthy. The thing is, when there is an abundance of free radicals, this causes the DNA to not be able to replicate efficiently. So unless your body has certain proteins called sirtuins, which activate the proteins that protect the DNA and keep the ends, just like this cap right here, if the end of this cap comes off, the tip gets destroyed. This cap is also what we would call in our DNA a telomere. And this telomere, this cap, needs to be protecting our DNA at all times. Otherwise, our genes cannot keep doing their thing, and DNA will not keep duplicating and creating new cells, new healthy cells. So what happens is, when there's an abundance of free radicals, now we have unhealthy cells, negative cells. And these negative cells then affect the environment under our DNAs are able to replicate. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we find a way into delta. And I need to create another video about this, so make sure you stay tuned, because everybody's wondering about how to reach delta safely and most efficiently. And I want to give you that information. I'll just go ahead and have to do that after I get some pens. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is delta. Delta and then theta. I misspelled on this one. But the idea here is that theta is your imagination. If I misspoke earlier. Delta is recovery. Theta is imagination. Theta is a place of being able to visualize things. Because now, when you reach theta, it's a relationship because of your right and left hemispheres. We need to realize that the right and left hemispheres have a specific schedule throughout the day. And most people don't realize that if they don't stimulate both the right side of their brain and the left side of their brain, then the body is not working efficiently at circulating thought from one side to the other, because our brain actually moves to the cycle of the stars and the moon. And so when you realize that you start your day at 6 a.m. when the light goes up and the light hits the front plate of the forehead, it goes right through because it's porous, but it goes right through here to ignite the circadian rhythm into working. The circadian rhythm can only be activated by sunlight. This is why you must wake up and stand outside to look at the sun as soon as you get a chance to, because if you don't wake up to look at the sun, how does your body know how to actually start circulating hormones at the right time? It's an alarm clock. You may wake up, but until you see light in the proper cycles or rhythms, you're kind of working at inefficient patterns. This is why moonlight and sunlight are used to resynchronize an individual with an out of whack circadian rhythm. It's incredible stuff. And I know that there's a lot of people in our decentralized health organization who can give you a lot more information in these subject matters because they are energy workers and they would love to see you reach your best self. So make sure that when you sign up for our 8-week challenge, you go ahead and be on the lookout for week 2 when we send you a list of all our coaches and what they do, because you're going to love to get in contact with these people. Next, as we go ahead and discuss what is recovery and what is imagination through the synchronization of both right and left hemisphere, we have to realize that there are frequencies working against us at all times that maybe want to go ahead and pull us more towards a beta than alpha state. And so what we could do as individuals who are self-aware or in the know, we can go ahead and get specific crystals or essential oils to increase specific vibrations or resonances in order to help the body either repel or attract whatever it is that you're looking to do. You see, the body is an incredible machine that can be stimulated not only through crystals, not only through essential oils, but also through binaural beats. Binaural beats are going to be what helps the brain shift its states from beta to alpha, even into theta or delta, even into gamma. Oh boy, binaural beats are the gateway into the brain. And this is why it's taken me so long to share this with you, but binaural beats are just sounds that resonate at one frequency here and maybe at another frequency here, and they're constantly causing your brain to kind of switch off. Wow, 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 wow. And it's doing that nonstop, kind of like white noise. But what it does is that if you choose the right frequency and you have an electric body because you've been able to eradicate the free radicals, you've been able to seal your gut, and you've been able to give your body the type of stimulation of the cardiovascular system or the heart, along with breathing properly to stimulate the body. Because if oxygen doesn't flow through the body, then how could nutrients get to the muscles to rebuild them? You have to think of it as you're building the pipes. You got to build the pipes. Then you got to build the foundation. And then this is the receiver. This right here is the receiver, not alpha, but the brain. And so when you realize that an electrical body or a Tesla tower has to start with gut health, that leads to proper infrastructure of the plumbing or the pipes from which the blood is going to be able to reach with nutrients to the muscles. That could be, sugars, that could be proteins or amino acids, that could be fats, that could also be white blood cells, that could also be red blood cells, that could also be plasma. We got to think about these things, right? Because as we get to the brain, the thing that's moving everything around is called cerebrospinal fluid. This whole story is about how the cerebrospinal fluid moves from brain through the muscles, through the heart, through the stomach, and through the electrical body at once. So when the cerebrospinal fluid goes from head down to your spine, up and down, just kind of like an efficient battery, then your body is healthy. Here's what most people do. And then they sit on the couch. But they never really get out of these positions. So when you start getting upright, when you start moving your spine around, when you start arching, when you start folding over, when you start touching your toes and arching and squeezing your glutes. This is called physical manipulation of the cerebrospinal fluid through muscular contractions. Imbibition is what it's called, imbibition. And if you don't understand this, then you're pretty much ignoring the most fundamental aspect of the human body, which is that the first gland ever created, the first gland that creates hormones, not cash, hormones, the first gland was the cerebrospinal fluid. And without this, you wouldn't exist. And when you pay attention to that, you can start to realize how important the spine is, because the entire body was created to protect the spine, because the cerebrospinal fluid needs to flow up and down. Just like a battery, it's going to go ahead and create electromagnetic resonance every time it moves up and down. If you are a person of low vibration, it's probably because your cerebrospinal fluid is stuck down here at the sacral pump. You see, the sacral pump down here is what kind of opens up when you sit down. So when you sit down and your back expands, you pull down your cerebrospinal fluid all the way down here. And it just sits there. So that's why you're like, oh man, I'm feeling tight. Yeah, you should probably get up and stretch and move around and spend some time trying to get it back up here. How do you do that? Well, fold over. Let that cerebrospinal fluid go from your hips back to your head, and then back down to your hips, and then back up to your head. This is keeping your body in a rhythm. That's why I said you got to have awareness of the right and left hemispheres, because it's a dance that happens every 2 hours. And the more that you understand how the brain works in shifting energy from one side to the other, it'll give you awareness into the pattern of thought. And the pattern of thought is simple. If you want to be in divine connection, always find a way to go right. It's simple. Always find a way to go right. And that's thanks to the Kabbalah. So in case you're wondering where to find more information, well, you should really start wondering, how do I think? What state of thinking am I in? Because if you wake up and you are in a beta state of thinking, then you are probably being programmed. Theta is for programming. You need to see the relationship. Program. Alpha is for execution. So you need to learn how the brain machines work, because if you're spending time in beta, you're in programming mode. That's what TV is. They put you in beta when you watch a TV screen. They have a patent behind the TV screen. There's a patent for the technology that makes you go into beta, because it makes you go into programming mode, not into execution mode. Remember, they want to keep us in the kitchen, sitting down, just kind of lazy, just kind of eating out the fridge, drinking beers and eating chips and eating snacks instead of being fucking energetic. You need to be rooted from the very moment you wake up. You need to put yourself in a state where you understand that beta is not the way, but it is a tool to put your brain into a new a new system of thinking. Because if you run to increase your brain capacity to either store long-term or short-term data recall, then that's a whole different thing. And you need to learn to manipulate these movements, because movements have significant impact in the brain's performance. Because most of us learn things, but we don't run after, so they don't get stored for the long term. So think about how much that would help your children. When you teach them the ABCs, go jog it out, come right back. Tell me the ABCs, go jog it out, come right back. What you're doing is you're teaching them how to remember information without even telling them that you're hacking their brain. This is inception at its finest, and you should do it with yourself, because if you can hack your own mind, then you can connect to the divine. Because the divine is found in gamma. Now, gamma is all about your ability to increase your brain wave resonance or vibration, because you understand that brain is the way. Not body, brain. Discipline of brain can be displayed through the body. You see, if I was overweight, you would think I haven't disciplined my body to listen to the mind. Maybe I could speak it, but if my body didn't look the part, then the mind is developed, but there is no discipline of body and mind. But my mind has complete control over my body and its decisions. I don't just go eat because I get a random urge. No. I have to be analytical of it, and I have to make sure that it is going to benefit me because of either I've trained in a high intensity interval training manner, or I'm living in a low intensity steady state manner. I love to eat omelets because I live in a low intensity steady state lifestyle. I do high intensity every once in a while, and immediately after that, I'll go ahead and recover with some sugars. Or I'll have sugars early in the day, but I won't have them in the afternoon. And it's finding the balance, right? Because everybody needs to learn their own body. There is not one way to do it, but I can give you 5 really good things that you at home could go ahead and look into to fully hack the human body. Number 1, look into free radicals. Number 2, learn to seal your gut. Number 3, learn about cardiovascular conditioning through what's called heart rate education. 220 minus your age, that's your 100%. You want to find out what is 80%, and then now you know, if I work harder than this 80%, I'm going to be using carbohydrates, and I'm going to be lacking oxygen. But if you work below it, you're going to be using fats and oxygen to create your energy. Once you know what you're doing with your heart, review your type 1 or type 2 muscle fiber training. This means you're either going to train abilities that you currently possess, or you're going to strive to achieve new human abilities. My goal is to upgrade your human software so that you can learn from your movements the same way that you learn by reading. So if you never learned how to read and you read everything that was on the board, this would look like gibberish. But because you know how to read English, you could read the board and get a lot of information from it. That is what I'm talking about. If you never learn how to move, how could you learn from each movement? It's that simple. So that's what layer 4 is all about. And number 5, it's about the brain. Do you understand how to take control of the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious? Because once you're aware of how your body uses its energy through the Krebs cycle, then you start taking control of the unconscious a little bit more through your recovery states, right? Because in recovery, we are attacking the unconscious. It's the most basic operation software of the body. Like the OS of the body can only be attacked if we go into delta to attack the unconscious. Now, subconscious, right, can be reached through with theta and gamma. So when people want to heal themselves, they got to understand what unconscious means, which means going into your delta, your unconscious self. You can either work the traumas out, or you could heal the body by giving the body a complete washing of the cerebrospinal fluid in a 90-minute cycle, which most people don't follow. You see, it takes 90 minutes for your cerebrospinal fluid to go through your brain and get cleaned out completely. If you stop the cycle prior to it, you're going to wake up with what's called sleep inertia. That means fragments of garbage and waste is being left in the brain, and that stuff lingers. That's kind of why you feel groggy sometimes. I'm telling you, you got to learn how to hack the human body if you really want to become superhuman. We call it electric light bodies, but the truth is we all could do it. I'm just here to go ahead and hopefully open your eyes to new information or reinforce what you already knew. I'm just a friend of everybody who wants to make sure that everybody's okay, but this information should be accessible to everybody. And that's why I'm making sure that this free information, from free radicals to gut, to the heart, to the muscles, to the brain, teach you a little bit more of how to reach what's called gamma. In order to become a Tesla tower, liberation through movement occurs when you reach gamma. Right now, I promise you this, if they were checking me out, I'm in a state of gamma right now because I'm so focused on my passion, my calling. This was something I was told to do this morning. From the moment I came into awareness, I was in bed laying down and it said, go get that video done. Teach the world how to become a Tesla tower. So I woke up and I erased everything on my board and I started writing. And the whole point here is that once you create a connection, right? See up here, it's called connection. in the unconscious, because your body's recovering through sleep, then your conscious self that woke up healthy and healing can go to create. It's that simple. So if I were to go ahead and give you a roadmap, we have to first attack the unconscious by going into delta. Improve your time in delta so that when you're unconscious, meaning your sleeping self, actually gets to have 90 minutes of rest. As soon as you wake up, knowing that your body is going to be in beta, give yourself some kind of programming. Either watch some of my content, watch The Rock, watch E.T., watch David Goggins. I have a bunch of videos for you if you want some. Let me know. But get yourself into a programming that lets you go from beta, and as soon as the video is over, boom, you got to start your alpha workout. That means you got to go into HIIT. This is going to remove oxygen from your body, which is going to go ahead and now you're consciously, this is number 2, you're going from number 1, resting correctly, sleeping correctly, to making conscious decisions to take yourself out of beta, because you understand that your trigger, that like snap, that alarm clock, is when the video ends. When the video ends, you go ahead, and that's the trigger to go ahead and attack alpha, because now you are attacking your subconscious. Why do I say that? Well, after you finish the workout, now you can go into a creation mode. This is step number 5. Before you can find connection, you must go into creation mode. And to go into creation mode, like I'm doing right now, you need to first wake up, and having conquered the unconscious, knowing you're going to wake up to beta state, so you leverage beta to increase your memory data storage, and then as soon as the video is up, boom, you hit alpha, you execute, so that you can go into creation mode, and once your workout is out of the way, the world is yours. You took care of your health. Now it's time to create. What could you learn today with all the time that you have left to help somebody else? And you create off of that. Because connection, that's 6th. That's the last step. Most people don't realize how easy this is. But when you have an electrical body, making a connection is not hard. However, learning the information, applying it, going through it, it should take you about 8 weeks. This is why I've created our 8-week program with a week-by-week breakdown just for you to be able to take advantage of it. So, if you're ready to get started, just know that you can click the link below and we can go ahead and help you go ahead and get started with a coach today. But the most important thing is that you start doing the research on your own to heal yourself. And if you want to get paid to work out, well, we're the company that you've been looking for. We are the revolution, and we're happy to help you. Are you ready to rebuild yourself? See, I'm so excited I can't even say it. But it's true. Are you ready?